Good day, everyone. My name is Patrick Connors. You can call me Pat, just don't call me late for dinner. I'm very grateful to everybody from the Art Bar team, especially Margaret Code and Rosa Arlotto, for making this happen. It's been a long time since I've done a reading, and this is my first time doing a reading this way, so I apologize if it becomes a little bit of a blooper reel or if I seem really awkward. And it's really appropriate given what is going on in society right now that I'm doing this reading in my bedroom and reading it to you instead of the wonderful community that I'm used to sharing with you. Much like my morning meetings at my day job, I'm wearing a shirt, I'm clean shaven, but I'm wearing pajamas. Hopefully that'll help me relax. This is in celebration of my new book, The Other Life, which I just received my first two boxes of books this past Monday from Howard Astor and Mosaic Press, and I'm extremely grateful for this. It's been a culmination of a several year process, which has forced me to refine my work and to have a better presentation and to become even more serious about poetry than I already was. So, nothing but good things about it. And I'm going to start out with a poem that is the one that is sort of the political poetry poem that people want to hear from me, and I'm going to end my set with the one that I would prefer to be remembered for. But first of all, exit poll, advice to the new leader. Promises are made to be broken like rotten eggs, but not until the morning after the election. 2. The current state of affairs is merely a reaction to mistakes others have made in the past. 3. Give the people what they want: visions of fresh young faces, sunny summer picnics, and reduced deficit spending, but don't let them realize a better tomorrow. 4. Because the next administration will have to take it back. 5. Fiscal restraint is what makes our civilization great, or at least it will keep the current system chugging along a little bit longer. 6. A balanced budget should almost make up for all those pesky poor people. So, just over 4 years ago, I had a wonderful trip to Holguin, Cuba, specifically to the beautiful Pearl of Ibarra, and spent several days there. And this is the story of my first night in Cuba, the rooster and the piglet. Midday in January, I sit alone at La Perla Hermosa in sweltering heat, organizing my thoughts so I can record them. Close by, the rooster and the piglet perform the 108th rendition of their 108 act dialogue. The rooster crows around the clock as if it were always the break of day, waits 1 or 2 seconds for the piglet's reply. If the piglet doesn't reply, the rooster crows again. Sometimes the piglet bleats, and the rooster waits 3 or 4 seconds before he crows again. Sometimes they cry at the same time. Sometimes a yelping dog will join them. In spite of this, I slept well last night. I have done nothing since I got here except share 2 meals with friends old and new. I don't know when my next meal is or how to ask for it, but I am relaxed. I know in a few days I must return to my ordered and organized life. I don't want to, yet I also will be happy when I go back. The next poem that I'm going to share with you was inspired by No Other Country, a book of essays by Al Purdy. Al Purdy has inspired me as sort of a Hemingway-esque anti-hero in terms of his approach to people's poetry, and his general approach to people is appealing to me. And I'm very grateful that he did write an essay about Newfoundland, about Harbor Grace, Newfoundland. My family is from St. John's, Newfoundland, and that inspired this poem, all the way down there. It was in the province of Newfoundland, the land of my forefathers and one mother, where Al Purdy went to do the deed. Incidentally, do not call it Newfoundland. Although this is how it is spelt, the word is not pronounced that way by those who know better. Nor is it to be called Newfoundland. The attempt to rhyme the last 2 syllables always seemed bizarre to me. Perhaps it is meant as a partial concession between mainland sensibility and local dialect. Just call it Newfoundland, if you please. Al Purdy wrote an essay about Harbor Deep, the sort of rugged frontier village on which our nation was built. Al Purdy tells us of a place with no roads, no police or doctors, where nearly everybody lives on summer salmon fishing and autumn unemployment. Al Purdy tells us about people named Loaders, Castles, Pollards, and Randalls, with whom he had much in common, only instead of cutting mattresses, they cut fish bellies. Al Purdy was a gypsy. He lived and felt more of Canada than most of us have seen on TV or in a book. By writing about these places and the people who made them more than a dot on a map, he tells us about ourselves. This book is the culmination of really more than 15 years of exploration and of suffering and learning and just striving to become better and to understand the world better and to understand myself. This next poem I'm going to read for you was inspired by Charles Smith and the Wind and the Leaves Collective, and it's called When My Worlds Collide. My world was always meant to come together, to have flow, unity, and coherence. Even as a little boy, I lived in many worlds. Problems always would arise when they would collide, especially when I forced them to. Now, I live in that flow, embrace my reality, the uniqueness of who I am. I accept the differences of all the worlds in which I walk. I love each one of them individually, as well as part of a collective blessing. Now, when my worlds collide, there is no confusion, no fear, no resentment, and I am free to be myself, not the guy I am within any crowd. Now I can try to help make the world the kind of place I have always wanted to live in, now that my life has begun. Now, some people, even who have known me for a long time, will probably not particularly recognize me right now because, well, in the winter, I do tend to put on a little bit of weight, even when I'm inside, when I'm not inside 23 hours a day because of a pandemic. But also, I'm wearing glasses, which I have been wearing for 14 months now, but many people have not seen me in them. And it's probably like, who is that guy? He sounds familiar, but we're not quite sure who he is. And in that light, I write a lot of very serious poetry. I take myself a little bit too seriously sometimes. And one day I wrote this poem, a rhetorical question for William Carlos Williams. How can I say in one minimalist yet run-on sentence, separated into a dozen or so lines with little punctuation, something meaningful, something memorable, as I try to do in my standard, long sweated over, 6-stanza poem? I hope that made you laugh. It was meant to make you laugh. It made Mina Wallen laugh the first time I read it on Art Bar Open Mic way back in, 2008, 2009, something like that. Seems like 100 million years ago. Of course, last week seems like 100 million years ago right now. Just over a year ago, the drummer and lyricist of my favorite rock band of all time, Neil Peart, the drummer of Rush, passed away. Long before he passed away, I wrote a poem for him called The Professor in honor of the 40th anniversary tour of Rush. I went to see their last two shows in Toronto. I actually only been to see Rush 4 times, which is really, really long. This is what happens when you spend all of your money on things that maybe you shouldn't be spending all of your money on, because I would have gone to see Rush, at least 10 or 12 times over the years for sure. But I did get to go see them twice in their last week in Toronto, and this poem became more poignant and more timely after his passing. And this is The Professor for Neil Peart. Floating on a gray, dark, quiet, loud, wet, warm, comfortable cloud, for they say the last time. Tears run down my face in total atonal harmony. I did not plan it this way. Staccato dreams of La Via Strangiato, Getty's definitive sound, Alex's solos, the beat of our collective heart. You have turned the tips and taps and thumps and butt-ba-dumps of disenfranchised, nerdy young men into something resembling music, the most meaningful music I have ever known. Begin the day with the friendly voice to mold the new reality. His love and life are deep. For those who think and feel, good work is the key to good fortune. 1,000 years have come and gone, and the meek shall inherit the earth. And the meek shall inherit the earth. As it stands, you and me may not collaborate on the words which define two generations, transcending all religion, eliminating the need for politics, the exchange of currency other than ideas and true love. But thank you just the same. I know I gotta stop drinking water out of plastic bottles. I'm gonna be a tree hugging hippie and claim to love Mother Earth, I know, but I didn't want to knock over any glasses and make a mess in here. I live in a very enclosed space. I work in a very enclosed space. Sometimes that helps my poetry. Definitely doesn't help my call center job. And hopefully it's working well here. I write a lot about guy stuff. I write a lot about big things, spiritual things, politics, and things like that. But I also write poetry about guy stuff. Picture a Scarborough basement on a snowy Saturday night with three people snowed in watching the Leafs game. And you'll have the background for the poem, Buds. Already trapped inside as more snow pounds the cellar window. False sense of security from being dumped on, yet being warm. Three men related because they married three sisters, completely in lack of a sense of comfort, of commonality. Beyond the standard conversation, the eternal frustration, the local pro hockey team, realizing they have no place to go, so they had better get along. What we need, the oldest one ventures, rubbing his beer bloated abdomen, is a power forward with some upside. What we need, the next one interjects as he favors his balding pate, is a number one defenseman, not on the downside. The other one isn't sure what to say. He's not a hockey guy. He's had too much to drink, the youngest one in the group. But he is smart and wears thick glasses. He decides to state the merely obvious. What we need, with a sense of surprise and shock, is a goalie who can make a save in the shootout. They grunt and groan, guzzle their drinks, belch and break wind, rub bare toes in shag carpet, knowing they are all right. Now, I recently read some poetry that was about baseball by a student of Anna Yin's, who unfortunately his name escapes me at the moment, but where other sports poetry tends to be about sports poetry and male about the sport itself and about the whole male bonding and all of that. Baseball has a unique storytelling tradition and a unique rhythm and cadence to it that makes it about life, makes it about other things. And in that spirit, I wrote this poem, What Runs Through. We went to the Blue Jays game one Saturday to see that damn Yankee, Derek Jeter, one last time. Actually, it was also the first time we saw him play in person, at least together. We participated in a standing ovation for Jeter, something I never thought would happen. Best of all, or almost best of all, Jose Bautista hit a home run, and our Blue Jays were victorious. In the days of our youth, rarely did a week pass by without attending at least one game. The two of us would meet at Eglinton GO Station and, after a short wait, quickly get away from what we didn't want to talk about. We would talk about Mosby, Barfield, and Bell, and Dave Steve, and Dr. Henkenstein, and whether this would be the year we would finally break through. While we passed by the factories and vacant lots, subdivisions, and shopping malls of suburbia, we would arrive at Exhibition Stadium, already a monument, more historical than functional. We knew guys who worked there. They said rats ran around the bleachers just before batting practice. Where did the rats go during the game? Was it safe to go to the washroom, especially on a cold day? After the game, we would go back to Eglinton and, being underage, use creative means to acquire beer. Shortly after dark, we would enter the forest inside McCowan Road Park to drink. Every time we dug a new fire pit or post holes to support a log to sit on, we always uncovered decades of garbage. The forest, the park, and the public school were all built on a dump. Purple poles positioned throughout the park allowed pungent methane gas to escape, preventing mini earthquakes from happening, at least most of the time. The creek, basically sewage, running through McCowan Road Park, originates in the Don River. We drank the beer, complaining that it cost nearly $12 for 12 bottles. We talked about the game, who was pitching the next day, and when we would go again. Or we might plan to go to the video arcade the next day, or to play Burby if circumstances allowed. We would nurse our last beers, even talk about things rarely talked about, in an effort to stay out long enough for everyone at our homes to fall asleep. Now, we don't go to games much anymore, although we are as close as ever. Maybe it's because we can't spend as much time with each other. Maybe it's because we no longer innocently believe in baseball's ability to take us away from our problems. Maybe it's because we don't have anything at home to run away from. Now it's time for another funny poem. I have a lot of poems about my telemarketing job. Most of them are very maudlin. Most of them are very feeling sorry for myself for having a job. This one is funny. What I learned in salesman school. If it looks like a duck and walks like a duck and eats like a duck and sits like a duck, it's probably a duck, even if you call it a goose. Okay, now back to difficult poems about childhood. This time of year, I suffer a lot from seasonal affective disorder, even when I'm not stuck in the house 23 hours a day. The cold weather and the lack of sunlight and all of that definitely contributes to that, but there's just sort of a lot of heavy feelings from childhood that have a hangover effect in my life. And this informs some of the poetry you're going to listen to now. Teenager. Look out the wind-blown window, through the evergreen tree gone bare, sun unseen lights the gray sky of air so cold even time is slowed, until a bitter, vengeful gust threatens to take down the tree, the snow-covered roof of the house, all which is on the horizon. Try to sink deeper under the covers and feel secure in knowing this is the most peaceful moment of the day. In the house where I grew up. The kitchen table in the house where I grew up was wooden, cold, and stained. Came apart in the middle like so many ruined meals and other realities hard to digest. Silences which say more than words can say, furtive glances the only I love you, support incomplete, bond left unspoken. When we left the house where I grew up, the kitchen table stayed behind, but the dining room table came with us. A place to spend and fear the holidays, an anchor to hold us to our past, when we did not know how to be a family. Panic. Your heart pounds against your ribcage, hopelessly trying to break free. Your brain and eyes ache from the pressure of blank thoughts beyond focus. Your hands shake restlessly. Your stomach churns and turns as if you had consumed something sour or tainted. Your muscles tense until cramped. Your hands and temples bead with sweat. The harder you try, the harder it is to catch your panting breath. As you run an internal race you cannot imagine ending, while to all external appearances you are merely sitting still. But after all of these difficult things, we have to get back up on our feet, and we have to recover. Recovery. It took oh so long to get myself straight, doubtfulness delaying all the right things, herbal teas, mysticism, oral fixations, wise words written by those from before me. Take lots of advice, some good, some not. Whatever you do, don't try to heal too fast, except if you accept or grin and bear it. Growth and change are inevitable. Played the fool by truth that was yet not truth. No one will take pity on feeble attempts, such contrived representations, unless you want them to, and you don't want them to. Picked myself up and dusted myself off, chose to contradict, to deny my demise, sang my song out loud without audience or reason, smiled and laughed and reveled in it all. Ready to live for the here and what's next, forsake the past, a need to make right by, fulfilling adolescent fantasies made of cathartic Hollywood endings. I had to look within while I was doing without. We all need to find one another, but the key to my recovery lay in the discovery of what makes me, me. The microphone in this thing is pretty good. I'm hoping it's picking up everything that I'm saying. If it's as good as I think it is, it just picked up the phone ringing and my brother picking up and answering the phone. Now, if this was the art bar, my brother would owe me a beer for that. But we're not actually in the art bar. I can't wait until we are back in the art bar and we are at the Free Times Cafe and get to share each other's company again. And how appropriate. A month ago today was my brother's 47th birthday. He probably doesn't like me saying that. I wrote this poem on the day of his 35th birthday and then posted it on his Facebook page on the date of his 36th birthday, which went over like a Led Zeppelin. But anyways, 35. My brother has turned on a milestone, nearly as bald and old as I am. Well, I remember hearing him say, "Don't trust anybody over 35. I know he yet still has 364 more days to become unreliable. Another thing that comes up a lot in my poetry is hopefulness and wanting to have the world be in a better place and wanting to become a better person myself. And out of that notion came this poem, Esperanza, which is after a poem by Lawrence Ferlinghetti. I have been waiting my whole life to write this poem. I am waiting to realize my dreams, or rather the opportunity to act on them. I am waiting for a time when love is the purpose of the rule of law. I am waiting for an era where long lineups, aggressive drivers, and people who won't move back on the bus are the biggest problems. I am waiting for a world where all the isms disappear, only to be replaced by tolerance, peace, and harmony. I am waiting for more tolerance, peace, and harmony in my own life. But I know the waiting is good because it helps me focus and work on what I'm waiting for. I am waiting to forgive all the people who have wronged me over the years and myself for all the times I've done wrong. I am waiting for the end of hangovers and my reliance on what causes them. I am waiting to understand the purpose of the chronic pain in my knees, my heart, and my soul. I am waiting to become patient, and I don't know how much longer I can wait. I am waiting for her who has waited for me even longer to make our love bloom. I am waiting for the next coming of my Lord and Savior, even though he is in my life every day. I am waiting for other people who call themselves Christians to realize he is coming back to save everyone. I am waiting for what makes my waiting worthwhile. It is Valentine's Day weekend, and St. Valentine's Day is my favorite Hallmark holiday, but as a Christian man, of course, it means a lot more than that to me. Valentine. Love will bring you ecstatic explosions, which build you up and bring understanding, but this will make you realize, no matter what you have believed, that truest love is not a fairy tale and won't be achieved without sacrifice. If you don't think so, remember, Valentine himself was beheaded because of love, was tortured and beheaded because of love. He made friends with King Claudius, even gained his favor, but refused to renounce what was most dear to him. He gave his all for a love which has been and is immortalized. In the same way, we all must be prepared to pass through some trials and become worthy of this love, made ready for the one you love. I'm just trying to decide which poems to cut out. Okay, I'm only going to read two more poems because I'm at the 26-minute mark. I'm usually really good with my internal clock, with being able to read all the poems that I want to read and knowing what to cut out and all that, but this is weird because I don't have an audience to vibe on. This is the one I'm going to be ending a lot of my readings in support of the other life with. It's called The Wonder. The years which have led me into middle age, unwittingly, unwillingly, have yet been kind. I have lost 20 pounds, which seem to keep finding me again. I have gained strength, patience. My eyes may not work as well, but I see much more clearly. What I used to hate, I now love. What I used to love, I now adore. What I cannot change, I accept. What I can't accept, I try to change. I am not what I will be. I am not what I once was, and yet I appreciate everything which has brought me here. Once again, thank you to Margaret and Rosa from the Art Bar. Thank you to Howard Astor from Mosaic Press. My book is available at a 33% discount on the website right now. Thank you very much to Terry Barker for his role in getting this going and in forcing me to make this book even better than it already was, and then forcing me again, and then forcing me again. And I'm just really grateful. And I'm going to end off with the political poem that I want to be remembered for. And I actually know this by heart, but I'm not going to take my chances on it. Order, with a shout out or two to Rudyard Kipling. I'm not here to change the world order, nor interested in revolution, just evolution, where we all grow and work together to help bring order to the world. If anyone doesn't have enough to eat, anywhere in a world full of plenty, if anyone cannot be all they desire to be, to grow and become the divine design, if anyone does not have access to health care, essential service as a basic human right, if anyone does not live in security, the dignity and respect of their humanness. Even I, as a white, Anglo, hetero, fully able, highly educated, first world Christian, cannot understand why we won't accept difference and embrace the beauty we all have in common. If you are ready to believe it's time for anyone who realizes these conditions to realize these conditions, from the ones you love the very most to the one you think your worst enemy. If you are ready to believe it's time to change things for the better before they get worse, then yours is the world and everything in it, my sisters and brothers. All the hopes and dreams and pains and sorrows and sufferings and joys. You are now part of it, especially if you weren't before. Thank you for listening. Poetry is community.